Have you ever sat down, full of motivation, opened a spreadsheet or a budgeting app, and told yourself, this time I'm going to get my money together? You list your income, you categorize your expenses, you feel responsible, adult, in control. And then, 3 weeks later, something happens. A bad day at work, a random expense you didn't plan for, a dinner you deserved. You look at the budget again and feel this quiet sense of failure. Not dramatic, just heavy. So you stop opening the app, not because you don't care about money, but because looking at it feels uncomfortable. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something up front. You're not bad with money, and you didn't fail at budgeting. Most adults think budgeting fails because they lack discipline. They assume if they were just more organized, more motivated, more strict, it would finally work. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one really talks about. Traditional budgeting was never designed for real human behavior. It assumes you're a calm, rational machine, that you'll make the same logical decisions on a stressful Tuesday night as you do on a relaxed Sunday morning, that your emotions won't interfere, that life will stay predictable. But life doesn't work that way. Budgets are often built in a moment of optimism. You're calm, you're hopeful, you're imagining your best self, the version of you that cooks at home, never impulse buys, never stress spends, and always thinks long term. The problem is, you don't live your life as that version of you. You live your life as a tired, emotional, human adult navigating work pressure, family expectations, social obligations, and mental exhaustion. So when budgeting fails, people internalize it. They think, something is wrong with me, and that shame quietly pushes them further away from their finances. Let's talk about what budgeting actually asks of you. At its core, budgeting is delayed gratification. It's saying no now so you can say yes later. But the human brain is not wired to prioritize future comfort over present relief, especially under stress. When you're exhausted, anxious, or overwhelmed, your brain wants certainty and comfort now, not 5 years from now, not retirement, not some abstract future version of peace. This is why people don't overspend when they're happy and relaxed. They overspend when they're tired, lonely, stressed, or burned out. Think about it. After a long workday, nobody impulse buys because they're bad at math. They do it because spending feels like relief. It feels like control. It feels like a small reward in a life that often feels demanding. Traditional budgeting ignores this emotional function of money. It treats every expense like a logical decision. But many expenses are emotional responses. Food delivery after a hard day isn't just food, it's rest, it's comfort. It's saying, I don't have the energy to do one more thing. Buying something small you didn't plan for isn't always irresponsibility, sometimes it's self-soothing. Budgets also assume income and expenses are stable, but for most adults, they're not. Some months you're mentally strong, some months you're just trying to survive. A budget doesn't feel flexible during those survival months. It feels like pressure, like another system reminding you you're not doing enough. And when people feel controlled, they rebel, even against their own plans. This is why extreme budgets almost always collapse. The stricter the rules, the more fragile they become. One mistake doesn't feel like a small adjustment, it feels like failure. And once people feel like they've failed, they stop trying altogether. There's also the identity problem. Budgets often frame spending as good or bad. Saving is good, spending is bad. Over time, that moral language seeps into how people see themselves. I'm bad with money. I'm irresponsible. I'll never figure this out. But money behavior isn't about morality. It's about psychology, environment, stress, and habits formed over years. Most adults were never taught how to manage money emotionally. They were taught rules. Save this much, don't spend on that. No one explained how money interacts with fear, ego, comparison, or exhaustion. Here's the shift that changes everything. Budgeting shouldn't be about control. It should be about alignment. Instead of asking, how do I force myself to spend less, the better question is, what is my money trying to solve for me? Because every spending habit exists for a reason. Some spending buys comfort. Some buys convenience, some buys status, some buys emotional breathing room. When you understand why you spend, budgeting stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like design. Designing a system that works with your energy, not against it. For example, if you know weekdays drain you emotionally, expecting yourself to cook every night is unrealistic. That's not discipline, that's denial. A humane budget accounts for your weak moments. It assumes you're human. It builds in flexibility so one rough week doesn't destroy the entire plan. This mindset shift also removes shame. You stop seeing overspending as failure and start seeing it as feedback, information, a signal that something in your life needs attention. Maybe your job is draining you more than you admit. Maybe your schedule is unsustainable. Maybe you're using money to compensate for lack of rest, time, or emotional space. Money doesn't exist in isolation. It's deeply connected to how safe, valued, and in control you feel. A realistic approach to budgeting starts smaller and softer. Instead of tracking every rupee or dollar, focus on awareness first, just noticing where your money goes without judgment. Instead of rigid categories, think in terms of priorities. What actually makes your life easier? What truly reduces stress? What expenses are worth keeping because they support your mental health? It also helps to separate stability from optimization. Emergency savings, basic bills, and necessities create safety. Once that base is covered, the rest doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to eliminate joy to be financially responsible. You need to be intentional about what joy is worth paying for. Another important shift is planning for imperfection. Assume you'll mess up sometimes. Assume there will be emotional spending. Build space for it. A budget that only works when you're at your best isn't a real budget. A budget that works when you're tired, stressed, and distracted, that's the one that lasts. And finally, stop tying your self-worth to your financial behavior. Money mistakes don't mean you're failing at adulthood. They mean you're learning in a system that never taught you how to navigate this calmly. If budgeting has felt heavy, frustrating, or discouraging, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means the system you were given didn't respect how human you are. Money is emotional because life is emotional. And trying to manage money without acknowledging that is like trying to diet without acknowledging hunger. Progress doesn't come from pressure. It comes from understanding. You don't need to be perfect with money. You just need to be a little more honest with yourself than you were yesterday. And if all you take away from this is one thing, let it be this. A calm relationship with money is more powerful than a perfect budget. You're allowed to learn slowly. You're allowed to adjust. And you're allowed to build a system that supports your life, not controls it. Because in the long run, progress always beats perfection.